There's no escape.
There's
Surrender.
No escape. Yeah, surrender.
Surrender.
We just keep on getting plugged back into it and keep on getting recycled. I guess. Maybe. That's a possibility. Yeah. I don't know.
Do you mean recycled in this reality or like a different reality?
What difference does it really make?
If it
Well,
goes
you
on
experience-
forever, it just seems bad, no matter what the outcome? What do you mean?
Well, I mean, this life is great. This is awesome. But I'm trying to get somewhere.
Where are you trying to go?
I'm trying to go higher.
Oh! Okay, this is a really, really good one. Because part of the experience that I just had, I'm able to really hyper-focus when people put things on pedestals.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh wow, I can just see them all. I can see them all. Every pedestal. How we pedestalize enlightenment. It's not a pedestal. It's not something that should be put on a pedestal. It's almost like a joke. It's the antithesis of what should be done with the concept, right?
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what is something higher without, what I'm saying is you're putting it on a pedestal.
Yeah, no, I am, and I recognize that. I recognize that, but I can't escape the paradox of it. It's like I am doing certain things in my life, right? Like to better myself. Like I can't escape the hierarchy of the world. Like why am I working? Why am I trying to build a business? Why am I working out? Like why am I reading books? Why am I listening to things? I'm trying to better myself. Like I'd be lying to myself if I'm saying I wasn't doing that. Like, and so why am I bettering myself? Because I feel like it's the right thing to be doing.
Oh, that is a humble beast thing to say. Because you think you should.
I feel
that's
like
the root. That's a very
Yeah.
vulnerable thing to say. Yeah.
I there is no other reality that makes sense to me. Yeah.
I get that.
So discipline makes sense.
Yes.
See,
Yes.
for me, experience makes sense. It's just to experience the experience.
But you can experience better experiences?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but what is better? It's just different. It's just would be a different lens. As soon as you gather more information, your lens changes.
But you have an idea over what type of experiences you want to experience, right? Like, because you're doing certain things in your life to hopefully propagate these experiences that you want, right?
Yeah, but I think that is an accumulation of maybe past experiences from other lives, and it's like now I'm here with all of these desires, and the desires that I have now is what fuels me forward into making those choices.
I'm curious, what does discipline get you?
What does discipline get you? Discipline gets me...
Because you gave a really weak why. So what does discipline get you then?
Discipline gets me like purpose, meaning in life.
So you can just keep diving deeper. What's that purpose then?
What's what's my purpose?
Well, what is that? So it gives you purpose. So discipline gives you purpose.
Yeah.
What is that? What is that purpose? What does that mean?
I think the purpose it serves me is it always gives me a new view. It gives me a new perspective, and I feel like the discipline gets me a little closer to the truth of who I am. And I think that's what it's not what I think, it's what I know I'm doing with my life is I'm trying to afford people that same view where they can.
So you're seeking truth.
Yeah, I'm seeking truth. Yeah.
So what I'm going to ask the girls. What is your idea of a good life? So yeah, let's see first. What's your idea of a good life? Because his is now he's saying to be disciplined, right? So to be disciplined so that he can get truth.
I mean, I feel like this has changed so much. It's hard for me to say.
Just currently, it's not. I'm not holding you.
I mean, for me, I love learning. I love experiencing every day. I love learning something new every day. I love community, and I don't know, for me it's just about experiencing everything that I can while I'm here. So yeah, saying yes to things, I mean saying no to things too, but yeah, just experiencing and learning things, that's what a good life is for me. And so having the full spectrum, I guess. Yeah.
Sweet. What about you?
Well, in this lifetime, I feel like what makes a good life for me is being able to travel through space and have those kinds of experiences, as well as spending lots of time in nature, just kind of being in the natural, raw, microcosmic form of the macrocosm. Like, those two parallels are very important pieces in my life that make me feel very, very fulfilled. And then along with that, most recently, just the level of surrender that I have in my being through some recent experiences, and surrendering to unconditional love continuously, like as a mantra. And as the more that I repeat that mantra, the more it instills in my being and the more surrendered I become. And I remember when I was in recovery, they would say, you need to live life on life's terms. Like, it's all about like surrendering to a higher power, surrendering to life, surrendering that like your head doesn't know what it's talking about. Do the exact opposite, like just surrender to life. And I didn't really fully get it to the degree that I have until recently. And that has given me like just a whole different perspective on life, which is very peaceful.
So there's like this innate thing that humans have, and it's to avoid discomfort and to seek pleasure, avoid pain, right? Mine is just to seek pleasure. That's all. That's all. If I'm seeking pleasure, I am gonna feel good. But the difference is I seek pleasure that is coupled with discipline. Why? Because that begets more pleasure. But why? Because I become aware through discipline of the continuum of pleasure. So if I eat a chocolate cake today, how does that pleasure feel tomorrow? Not good, right? So if my continuum of every action that I take is to beget more good feelings, more pleasureful feelings, I will unendingly have a good and pleasure-filled life. And that is all. I feel like it's interesting when you were sharing is that there is an aspect of the sacral that is being neglected, an aspect of like the actual enjoying the juicy pleasures of life and allowing it to get out of the system, because willpower is like, it's like a one size fits all. It will always lead us to more good, but will always lead us to more arduous good if we don't have the sacral, which is like seeking pleasure first, right? Being like rooted, grounded, solid, secure. How can I do that in the most pleasure-filled way? And how can I use my will to activate more pleasure? And how can I activate my heart so that all of my willpower is coupled in that love to express? And there's only one way for me to get the most pleasure. It's to use my will and activate that will to activate more love and just continue this chakra system. But it's so obvious when we are not. Because when we feel like there's something better than being human right now, that's the thing. There's not.
There's not. Yeah.
That's the impossibility. That is the antithesis, and essentially, I believe in Eastern spirituality, the part that has got us lost as human beings, because it's just like actually so simple that if there's somewhere else to go, it must mean we're putting onto a pedestal. It must mean we are negating this life that we are in now because it is just a means to an end. It's not. It is like the best thing. The only reason we left Source was to come here and do this right now. So how can we do this in like the best absolute way? And through discipline, I agree. Discipline is dope, but also making sure that discipline only feels really good and is like filling us with goodness. But I'm not sure if that resonates, but that's where
that totally resonates.
Yeah.
And it's, I would not rather be doing anything other than what I'm doing right now. Yeah, because I do get immense amounts of pleasure from it, and more so than pleasure, I get purpose from it. I get meaning in my life from it. And it's like, I wouldn't take time off to do certain things that I want to do that would provide me temporary pleasure, because they'd just be pulling me away from my larger purpose in life. And that's where I derive the most pleasure in my life, from reaching towards staying on course of the purpose of what I think is meaningful in my life. Because I've pulled back a lot of the times into certain forms of pleasure seeking, and they're enjoyable for a finite time, but in the end they're quite empty. And so I've done a lot of experimenting in my life, and this is the way I'm living my life right now, and the things I do are all exactly what I want to be doing.
All of them? That's the key, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes it feels like discipline, no matter what, more discipline will equal, because discipline has equaled more goodness in all of these ways. It'll feel like discipline is like, this is going to be the thing, like discipline is going to, if I just apply it here now, if I start incorporating breath work, and if I start incorporating this, more equals better. Does more equal better? That's the question.
No, definitely not. And there, I'm constantly refining my process. Like it's funny you say breath work. Like, I was doing breath work for a while, and I just gave it up because I moved it. I honestly moved it out of my schedule to fit fashion. Because I trust Jessica. I trust in this process of fascia that it's a very powerful tool to, tap into the subconscious and release traumas. And so, are there other things I'd want to be doing? Like, I'll take that back. Like, I feel like, of course, like, I wish I had more time in the day to do all these things that I want to do. But I feel like there has to be a certain amount of negotiation that goes on with yourself, whether it's like, okay, like, especially now that we're, made available all these, like, psychotechnologies. At least, like, that's the things I'm interested in. And there just doesn't, there isn't enough time. I just don't make enough time to do all of them, because I choose to focus my energy on other things I'm doing in my life. And so I only allot myself a certain amount of time to practice certain disciplines, which I enjoy practicing. So yeah, there's always things.
One thing I want to point out, because it seems like very often we have this idea that between discipline and non-discipline is hedonism, but that's not the case. The case often is this discipline or this discipline. So one of the things that I had was I was facilitating ceremonies, doing a bunch of work, and working full-time with my dad, or almost full-time. Then I went to Thailand, and I was like, whoa, this is what it feels like when I don't have to work a lot. And I was like, I can hardly sit still. Like, I feel like I need to get stuff done. This is so weird. So when I came home, I decided to just lay off. I was like, no work. I'm just going to do the work that I want to do. That was my version of hedonism, right? So in that way, it was, how can I create my own schedule for as long as I possibly can and see if I can make this work? Because it's, I do understand we live in a hustle culture, and more willpower and more working on business equals something. But at the same time, if that's not the work that we want to be doing, the most hedonistic, not even, just like a different aspect of discipline is, how can I always utilize discipline to create my day in a way that is going to be more representative of the day that I want? Because that is the thing we're constantly struggling against, unless we have rich parents, but that would come with its own set of issues, is just, how can I create my day to be orchestrated in a way that is nourishing on all levels, makes me feel good, excited, stoked. I feel like what I'm tuning into just is there's like must be some self-negation for money going on somewhere there, right? And I'm sure that your predisposition to not be hedonistic is great, but like that's not what this is. It's not between this or that. It's between this work or different work, you know. And I think that's the biggest key for most people to find, you know, when we talk about purpose, because you're saying purpose, right? It's like that is how we usually find that purpose, is living a life where our day is like, yeah, like this is the day I want to live. So yeah, I'm not sure if any of that resonates as well.
It does. No, it resonates. And yeah, there are, you know, of course, I'm working towards obtaining certain things in my life. There are certain things I want to provide for my partner. There is, essentially, I'm working for, I mean, the only reason I think we want money in this life is it provides freedom. It provides a sense of freedom. And it gives us more to choose from. It opens our options up for us. So that's what I'm working towards in one aspect, but I'm also working towards I'm working towards affording people that same freedom that I have currently in my life, but that I also hope to have more of in the future. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I like that. I think the things that I've incorporated into my day continually is how can I make an adjustment as much as I can every day that's going to bring more pleasure and joy, right? Whether that's a dietary adjustment, which is always happening, whether that's incorporating a new supplement, which is always happening, whether that's going for a run today or a hike tomorrow or a harder gym today and a rest. Like all of these things are always in flux and they're always orchestrated, you know, just like you did say 3 days ago, whatever, that you were wanting to do a certain workout every day for 30 days, and then you did it for 28. And then I was like, okay, that is how discipline turns on us, right? Like that's how discipline ends up turning into our enemy, because then we've got this idea of reality being like hyper-focused to this one thing, whereas discipline, one of the greatest disciplines, right? One of the greatest exercises of our will is surrender.
Yeah.
Surrendering into whatever I get done today is what I get done today. That, I feel like, as far as like the pinnacle of the expression of everything that we can do, that's like the highest esteem. It's just like I'm disciplined enough to the point that I can surrender into the discipline, and that is the last, it's like the last step. It's just like, let's just surrender into this entire flow, and whatever I get done is what I get done. I'm not gonna be hedonistic, but I'm not gonna be hard on, you know, I'm gonna be like, just chill, and just like let this all flow. But yeah, that's the icing on top of the whole I don't know what else.
The train agrees.
The train agrees. Yeah.
Did you hear that?
The train agrees.
Yeah, the train agrees.
That always happens.
Yeah.
No.
You did.
Oh,
You
it
guys
just
was like,
feels
yeah.
like-
That was me.
That was me. I agree.
No. I love that you brought this up.
Yeah. What are your views?
What are your views?
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of know. We talk about this all the time. I think that this is part of the reason why I'm in your life, is bring that balance to you. Because a lot of like what I practice is when there's something going on in someone's life, I'm like, what, like usually like I mean I deal with people with like lifestyle issues, and one of the most common things is people feeling stuck. I'm like, well, do you do anything you love every day? Do you do anything that you enjoy every day? And that's the first thing that I inject into their lives, and they're like having this profound experience. I'm like, you just spent 10 minutes on yourself. Because I think there's always a price to pay when you're doing something, and if it's at the expense of you, then you're not living out like your best self and your intentions. And when you're in a good space and you're the best person that you could possibly be, things just unfold perfectly. They do. I've experienced that for myself so many times. And it's actually interesting because my life now is a lot more structured, where I went through a phase where I embraced like the flow state. I experimented with it and I felt like I got a lot done. So I think there's a balance for sure, but I don't like the word should. I think everyone should remove should from their vocabulary.
Did I say should a lot?
No. I don't think. No,
Shitting
it's
all
like
over
it's
the
like
place.
I should do this. I have to do this.
I get to do
I
this.
need to do this.
Yeah.
I need to do this
Yeah.
to get here, or
It's
Yeah.
interesting, yeah. I feel like the way that I just say, this is what I'm doing, right? And it sounds like overly confident because sometimes I don't do it, right? But it's like, I don't think it really, it's better than having the obligatory perspective of ourselves. Yeah.
and not getting attached to every single thing too. Like it's like, I mean, sometimes like you are hard on yourself.
Of course.
I don't want to call you out, but you are.
I'm not
I mean,
saying
I
I'm
am
not
too.
hard on myself.
I am
Yeah.
too.
Podcast is for the
I am
call-out
too,
audience.
though.
I'm hard on myself too.
We all are, because there's
Yeah.
certain things we're like, oh God, I did this thing again.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh my
so,
god. So
yeah.
hard on myself. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I like what he said about just surrendering into the discipline. You know,
Yeah.
like, just surrender.
Well, at one point, this is like, there's always a gradation of everything that we are doing, right? So at some point, we need to be hard on ourselves to get things done. Like
Absolutely.
the first
Yeah.
thing I noticed was my friends in high school, we used to smoke weed every day, and it was great. We just smoke weed, watch, eat pizza, and then one day I just started judging them and judging myself, and everything just felt awful. And that was the beginning of me taking a lot of positive life decisions, is judging what I don't want as being wrong, and these things that now make me feel uncomfortable, make me feel not worthy of anything better than this, and then started taking all of these actions that unfolded, at least for my life, in a good way. But at some point, I noticed, I was like, oh, I'm using this highly critical thing, highly discerning and critical eye on everybody, including myself. I was like, this is not serving me anymore, right? But yeah, to let go of that inner critic, I feel once it's served us so much, that's the thing. We're highly invested in that inner critic because it's done probably almost everything that's been good in our existence, but it's also done so with a lot of like turbulence and or like, you know, friction, you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
This is, I like, you kind of mentioned this earlier. It's almost this just idea of like reflecting upon the behaviors that you have. Like for me now, I think, so I had a very strong inner critic, and I still kind of do, but my inner critic has softened. So I can still look at things very, like I can pinpoint areas of my life that I need to change, but it's more objective now. It's not like, why didn't you do this? It's more like, okay, like, you know that this isn't the best thing, like maybe let's change it next time. But I don't know, it's been an interesting process for me working with him, doing his 100 days of discipline. That is something I never thought I would do, and there's been a few times where I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, what am I trying to prove? There's nothing that I'm like, I don't need to be doing this. Whereas today I had this huge moment of realization where I'm literally like blasting away so many limiting beliefs that like all of the excuses, all of those possible things popping up, I had to override them. So there is like this element to it as well of discipline. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it made me think too. I just kind of like arbitrarily decided, well, not arbitrarily decided, I decided to give up coffee and smoking tobacco because I could see its effects showing up on my body. It was just running me dry. And that was back on August 13th, and I decided, I was like, okay, I need to take a break. You know, my body's been saying take a break for a long time. And so I just decided to take a break, and I decided 40 days, you know, because I'd been reading the Bible, and it's all about 40-day fasts. I was like, there's something in 40 days, so I'm going to go for 40 days. And then I made that decision, and I was like, oh, wait, well, we're starting 100 Days of Discipline on September 1st, and that goes till December 9th. I'm like, fuck it, I might as well just go that time, too. And there's been a lot of the times in the past month where, you know, I've been by myself and I've been like, I'd just get a coffee right now. I could just have a smoke right now. Like, no one's gonna know. And, you know, like, why am I doing this? And I have to remind myself, like, oh, I'm just doing this to prove it to myself. That's it. Like, there's no other grand reason. You know, it's not such a wild thing to just stop drinking coffee or smoking tobacco. A lot of people just don't do that. So I'm just proving it to myself. And, you know, why am I proving it to myself? I think beyond anything, it's very important for me not to break promises to myself anymore, because I did a lot of that in the past, and that degraded my sense of self-worth that I felt for myself, and it ended up producing all these low self-worth narratives that I had to work hard to get over and to release. And so it's funny that you say surrender into the discipline. For me, that means, like, yeah, you make a promise to yourself and then surrender into that fact of that promise that you made for yourself. And it's like, okay, I'm doing that. There's no sense of battling with myself over that.
There's a sense of battling. When the battle comes up, it's like, surrender.
Yeah. And it's like almost like you have another... It's interesting because it is limiting yourself in a sense, which is weird, but it's temporarily limiting yourself, I think, to you know, with that foresight that it is going to make you more limitless in the future.
Yeah, you
like,
gain perspective.
Yeah.
Like, I know when I was having like a bit of an issue with smoking pot recently, it was putting me into some really weird states, and then I decided to take 3 months off to gain perspective.
Right.
To build a different relationship with it. And any time that feeling and that craving would come up, I would have to surrender it, and I would kick and scream, and that would be really uncomfortable inside. But I surrendered and I made it through, and then I like reached another level of healing a limiting belief. And then 3 months later I started incorporating it a bit in a healthy way, and it's been fine ever since. But sometimes we just kind of need to step back a bit
in order to appreciate I guess the fuller perspective of things, or even where you're at in your life, I guess. And that's you know, for me personally, that's what the mountains do for me too. They afford that new perspective where it's like, oh, okay, right, the whole world's out here.
The whole world.
Yeah.
I'm so small.
Yeah.
I've got one more integration piece with the discipline part.
Yeah.
It's I'm not sure when this came about, but at some point, right, I started perceiving everything is perceived on a continuum, and everything is best served in extremes. So like there's like the continuum and the extremes. We go from one extreme to the other. Then at some point we refine those extremes as we go. You know? So there's one part which is that, of course, you were drinking and smoking, right? When you reintegrate it, if you do. But usually, it's best to reintegrate most things, unless it was like ruining your life somehow. But doing it in a way where you now know how it serves you, right? Like that's the most key aspect of everything that we do. Because if I look at myself, right, I didn't drink coffee for 10 years, 11 years. I'm pretty ADHD. You know, I'm self-diagnosed, but at the same time, coffee helps me focus, absolutely, and it calm, focus, clear. But I found that coffee itself ended up building up, just like you said, and I only started drinking maybe 3 years ago, or ish, 2.5, and then I drank it for like a year, and I was like, I'm done with this every day, right? So it was like tea every day, coffee sometimes, and that's what worked for me. Tobacco, I was like, I'm gonna smoke this every day and see how it feels. And for a bit, it felt like it was feeling better and better and better. And then I was like, I think I'm gonna smoke it on like Saturdays, maybe one during the week if I feel called, right? And like, I feel like when we approach things, but we make sure we do it and we do it right, and then we stop doing it and we stop doing it right, then we know, like, what is our unique expression with whatever this thing is, whether it's cannabis or alcohol or psychedelics. You know, there's some people that think I should do psychs because they're healing and I should just do them all the time. It's like, wow, that's just a belief, right? If we have a belief, I need coffee, I can't do work without coffee, that's how you know you need to stop doing coffee, at least for some period of time. But with everything, going through those contrasts of following keto and then not, and then going, you know, for me now, I've experienced, as far as the extremes of diet, I go all the way keto and then go all the way carbs, high carb, no fat, and weave between them. And I feel like going through those extremes is extremely balancing for the body, gives different organs a break, makes certain organs work harder, it just helps create contrasts. And I use that as like a guidepost for most of the things that I do. It's like, well, how would I apply this thing to diet? You know, I was like, well, I'm going to drink caffeine every day, all day. Okay, great. Now I'm going to cut it out. Okay, great. How do I feel? Well, I didn't feel technically any better by drinking caffeine all day, right? It's like I didn't feel any better because on the continuum, at a certain point, there's diminishing returns. And that is the key part. Everything has diminishing returns and can start to rear the ugly head of craving. And as soon as we have that, like, I need this, I'm craving, it's like we're losing our free will, right? Totally. And that's how we can reintegrate, making sure we are free through our day, orchestrating it perfectly, but still enjoying the luxuries and the pleasures of life. That's the thing. Like having just, you know, integrated coffee 3 years ago, integrated nicotine like 6 months ago, I never smoked in my entire life. Now I'm like the happiest smoker ever, but like twice a week, man. Like just to do it the right amount for you. Yeah. Well, it's
healthy for you.
If it's right for you, it's right for you. You know? Yeah. Not to condone smoking people on YouTube. But yeah, do we have any final words before we wrap her up?
I don't know. You just confirmed that I need to stop drinking coffee. I was just talking to him about it.
I was just thinking, I think it's time to go on a coffee cleanse.
I wasn't even trying to do that.
I was whispering.
That's good.
That's funny.
I think what I like there at the end is I couldn't agree more with going to the extremes to find balance. And I think that's a good philosophy to take in all arenas of life. And I think it's a good thing to keep in mind too when we have such transcendental experiences, whether it be through meditation or plant medicines or even in dreams, is that it's like we've touched that other extreme of the spectrum, and it's like now we have to come back here, and it's like we can't always be up there and we can't always be down here. We have to find some, you know, happy middle point in the middle. I think that's a worthy goal to work towards.
Amen.
That
was good.
That was a great ending.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Thank you guys.
Thanks
for the free therapy lesson.
I know. I feel like
Session,
I feel like we just had some therapy.
I was laughing.